hope the chat is filling up right now with links to incredibly interesting projects. And don't be worried that that would somehow, take attention away from the video screen. The chat is an integral part of this event, so use it. Share information with each other, bring out comments, and let us know how that goes. There's more interaction in this Partos Innovation Festival, but first of all, let's dive into this session. We had a wonderful session yesterday. We had a passionate talk from Kitty van der Heijden. We had a view from the other side of the world from Payal Aurora. We had insights about blockchain, AI, data, and social media. Lots of ideas, but what do we take from, what is our conclusion? Bart, you're the director of Partos and my sidekick. What is your conclusion after the first day?
Well, I wonder what your conclusion is of all the participants, but my key lesson I took from the day yesterday is that if we want data, digital tools, artificial intelligence to work for us all, we need to ensure that's be developed by all. Of course, we shouldn't refrain from opposing manipulation, fake news, digital inequality, restrictive surveillance. But first and I think most important of all, we need to use and employ our collaborative and creative power to develop new tools, new systems, and new artificial intelligence with a strong focus on diversity and with an open eye for bottom-up initiatives. I think that's where our power is, that's where our distinctive added value is, and that's how we can ensure not losing ground to those who want to oppose.
I couldn't have said it better. So we need more ground-up work. We need to appreciate and be interested much more in what's happening there already. And this morning is completely dedicated to that, because later on we're going to see the results of the food hackathon. We're going to look at the most inspiring digital innovations from all over the world. So incredibly interesting people will come together here to share what they are doing. Before we do that though, we have one more keynote talk, which is more of an interview that I did with Marleen Sticker. And Marleen Sticker is the founder of De Waag, and what she will talk about is digital tools. Who owns digital tools? What digital tools should we develop ourselves and how? And especially, how is this public landscape, the civic landscape developing? Because so many of our digital tools are commercial tools, and we are part of this big commercial internet. What else is there and how can we develop it? So without further ado, let's start the interview with Marleen Sticker. Welcome to the second day of the Partos Innovation Festival. We are here at De Waag to speak with Marleen Sticker and to talk about civil society, digital power and the tools we can use. Marleen, tell us, who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm Marleen Sticker. I'm director, founder of Waag. And Waag is a public research institute. We look into the effects of technology. And we also work with artists, designers and activists and developers to develop parts of the internet that we can trust.
You have been working on the internet, observing the internet, analyzing the internet, but also acting with and for the internet for many years. Can you tell us what has changed when civil society got the digital powers of the internet? What has changed in the last 30 years?
Well, I've been involved for the last 25, 30 years in the internet. At the early beginnings, when it became more like a public good, when people started to use it next to what scientists already did and people were more computer literate. And I founded the Digital City as one of the first social media platforms or contexts where people could access the internet. And at that time, the internet was of course very promising as a tool for democratization, for giving people the infrastructure to spread their stories, to make media themselves instead of being medialized by others. So it was part of like the tactical media movement that was in place in the early 90s and of the 80s.
And maybe just to expand a little bit on that. So the first thing you did when you discovered the internet was basically establish a public space on the internet.
Well, I considered the internet as a public space. It was a public space. It was a place where it was a commons, a resource for everybody to use and to contribute to. So the first people that started to use the internet, the scientists, but also people from civic society, started to add value to the internet, help using, of course, the values that other people already created. So you could consider the early internet as a commons. And only later in the game, companies came in and started to appropriate parts of the internet and started to make the internet more a marketplace.
Yeah, and if you look at it now, I mean, obviously the civil society is there and using the internet, but it sometimes feels like we're completely dominated by a few very big companies that offer us not only the infrastructure but also all our services, all our data. How do you see this development?
Well, very recently I wrote a book, The Internet is Broken. So this is my view on the internet at
the whole internet is broken.
The whole internet is broken.
Yeah.
On actually, the other sentence is, but we can fix it. So I can talk a bit about that later. But yeah, it's broken on a lot of different levels. It's broken in our trust. A lot of people feel very uncomfortable using the internet because they know something is there luring at what they're doing. The surveillance capitalist, of course, story behind all the big tech movement, big tech platforms. But there is also Snowden already told us in 2013 that the internet is broken and very vulnerable, and that states, not just companies but also states, are exploiting these vulnerabilities by again surveil their societies. So yes, there's a lot of ways that the internet is broken, but I think, and I think basically what happened is that something that was a commons, a public good, a public infrastructure became a completely privatized infrastructure. In the last 25 years, we haven't spent any money in the public part of the internet. It's only being spent on companies to be innovative, but also put them in a position to claim more and more of the internet, with closed technologies, appropriation of services and platforms. And the states, the governments themselves spend a lot of money on themselves. But we haven't spent a lot of money as society on the societal public aspects of the internet.
So if you would have 5 billion in your pocket, where would you spend it? What would you do with it? How would you fix it if you could dedicate some of that money to a public space on the internet?
Well, the part we can fix it is a whole roadmap, which means that we have to do a lot of different things at the same time. There's not one silver bullet to make the internet a safe space again. So first of all, we have to change the narrative that the market can fix everything for us. So we have to bring back the story that we need it as a public commons infrastructure. I think this is very important that we all agree on. Secondly, we have to push back. We have to break up big tech, which is with legislation and with all kinds of laws and political power. So we have to do that. But thirdly, I think most of the money I would spend on building and creating what we call at de Waag a public stack, on all the layers of the internet, not just the applications, but also the protocols and underneath, even the cables that go through the oceans to connect continents. We need to have infrastructures that have public values inside, which have governmental oversight, which have a design process which is inclusive, and which is basically open and fair. Because I think this is one of the major threats of all parts of technology that is touching our societies, is most of these technologies are closed source. The artificial intelligence is closed source, the applications and the data storage is closed. So we don't know even what's really happening underneath the surface of the internet. Most people only see the applications, and there's a lot of things going on underneath the surface, and we have to get grip on that.
And do you think that, I mean, you can spend a lot of money on it, but at the moment the infrastructure of the internet certainly seems to be very dominated by the bigger companies. And I mean, within the Partos Innovation Festival, of course, we have special attention what is happening, for instance, in Africa. And in Africa, the huge infrastructure projects are developed by Facebook, Google, the Chinese, the Saudis, and you know, that seems to be completely dominated from even the cables that go under the sea to the balloons that are hanging there, and so the access to the internet is no longer a public service. Is that still to be solved?
Well, there are some signs that could help us in this direction, and I think one of the important things is to have multiple infrastructures, so that you don't have to depend on one of the bigger parties. So what's now happening, for example, is that there is a cable being put into the ocean to be sure that there is a connection between the European continent and Latin America. And this is a research infrastructure. So it's done by GEAN, which is a large European network of universities. I think it's very important to have this kind of public infrastructure so that we are not depending on the infrastructures that is being put down by a bigger company. So this is a way to go.
So this is only one part of the challenge.
There's only one part.
Yeah, exactly. But then there's this other level of all the platforms and tools on the internet where you make a point for having a sort of a public stack, so more open source tools, more tools that everybody can use, and maybe more tools for civil society. But I just want to put it in front of you. There's an interesting theory, it's the cute cat theory, which is an interesting guy, Ethan Zuckerman, developed. Ethan Zuckerman, he's actually the inventor of the pop-up ad. You can all hate him for that, but he's also somebody who's thinking very strongly about activism and public spaces online. And he says, for activists, it's much better to use platforms and tools that are widely used, that are used by a majority of the people to publish pictures of cute cats and things like this, because that means they are less vulnerable than if they develop their own tools, their own platforms, if they are, you know, only within that world, because then governments could easily just wipe them out. Whereas the public tools that everybody uses give them more power and more influence. How do you feel about that distinction?
Well, I don't see the distinction. I think it's very important to use the social platforms where people are, to reach out to them and not just move away from it, because otherwise you don't have your audience, can't find anybody. But at the same time, you have to criticize them and push back and be part of the break up big tech movement and be very clear about it. And I think public money should not go to this kind of platforms. So money from cultural organizations, education or NGOs should not end up in the hands of Amazon or Google or Facebook.
Yeah.
So at the same time, we have to put our energy and our time and attention and our creativity in building alternative parts of the internet. And these should not be there just for the activists. They should be generic applications that everybody likes to use. They should be very well designed. They should be really fun to use. So it's not that we have to, if the story is to people, well, safe internet is very boring, it will not going to happen. Or safe internet is only for the activists or the people that know how to deal with technology, it's not going to happen. So the part that if we build public spaces, safe spaces where the surveillance is not in place, where surveillance capitalism is not playing with your emotions and with your moderation, these have to be really nice, good places. And I think we are able to do that. It's not rocket science. It's very so it's more that we all have to believe it's possible. We have to spend our time and our energy and our money in that direction. And I think it's very important to convince local governments, but also city councils, but also NGOs, to find new alliances between everybody who feels that we don't want to be pushed in these surveillance markets as we have at the moment.
Yeah. And if you, I mean, especially the people listening to us now are people that work in civil society. They have goals. They want to eradicate extreme poverty. They want to have a more, honest and balanced and sustainable world. And they often have to work in a world where big companies dominate, but also government is not on their side. I mean, or government is even working with the big companies. So for those people, where should they find the alliances? Because it's more than about choosing the right digital tools, right? It's a much bigger question here.
Yeah, I think the question is much bigger because everything is intertwined. So the internet is not something that you can see apart from the oil industry, for example. A lot of the oil money, Saudi Arabic funding, went into SoftBank, which is now supporting the Ubers of this world, which are trying to dominate mobility, also especially in countries that are more vulnerable at the moment and have less strong civic society. So yes, we can't just separate all these issues. So we have to see it as entangled. And I think your alliances are therefore manyfold, because there are people who are in reclaiming economics, people that are in the position of rethinking finance, people that are part of the sustainable movement or the climate action. I think everybody who's in internet safety and privacy, and also everybody who is in human rights, all have the same cause, which is that we have to rethink our economic models. We have to think about that market and state are not the only way to organize value creation and societal well-being. Because I think we need that to conquer the very dominant idea that state and market are the ones that will bring us joy and happiness.
The only ones that rule.
That have to rule, and that states only make alliances with the market for the citizens, where I think the citizens and society itself has a strength, but we also have to recognize it and believe again in it, because it has been pushed away by neoliberal market thinking and large companies that say that, well, people are not able to maintain a commons because there will be the tragedy of the commons. So there is Eleanor Ostrom as one of the people, but there are many, Michael Bauwens, and many people that at the moment are helping to understand how commons can structure our societies.
In this strange year where, of course, everybody relies more than ever on digital platforms and digital communications and digital processes, do you see any acceleration in developing the digital commons? Will this actually be the year in which something new starts, or is it basically a year of retreat and despair and we have to start over again?
Well, when I wrote a book, The Internet is Broken, but we can fix it, I also had this struggle, like, am I really optimistic enough to have a whole chapter on how we can fix it? And I must say, I've become more positive. I mean, I can also say I'm very, very negative because of all kind of disasters that are happening, of course, also because of COVID. But I choose to be optimistic. And I see that from a European perspective, for example, is a very strong positioning that technology is not neutral. So we just don't want to have the technology that the Silicon Valley or the Chinese parties give us. So we have to come up with an alternative.
Yeah.
But I also see this in companies that see privacy, for example, as their unique selling point. So Brave, the browser, Signal, the messenger, Proton Mail, which will also end of this year come with a document sharing structure. So you see that the new companies come in that can give us the same quality of experience and applications, but have human values inside instead of shareholders' value. Yeah. So I think, because of that, these kind of platforms and applications are there, they're sustainable, you can trust them. I believe it's possible. Yeah. But again, I think we have to spend much more time in also advocating them and start to engage with them. So I think if you're an educational organization or an NGO or a civil servant within government, you have to be very clear that you believe that because you're publicly funded, you should use the public version of the internet, the open version of the internet. And if we all start to do that, then there starts to become a really good market for companies also to step in.
So I understand how important it is that all of us consider these public spaces, these public tools. You yourself have started a development in this area as well. Can you explain a little bit more?
Yes, we visit a lot of cultural organizations, festivals, but also governmental organizations, educational organizations. We started the initiative Public Spaces. And it's actually about reclaiming the internet on the public values that we share. So we are building parts of this new platform for people to use, a social media platform. Of course, it is related to all the things that are already happening in the global sphere, because you can't just build a part of the internet which is separate in the Netherlands, so it has to be generic and for everybody to use. There's a lot of that going on in the world, so we're also working with European partners in public spaces. And I think I think the real question is, and maybe it's also a question to the audience today, is are you aware of the tools that you're using, and are you aware, is this part of your consideration if you have to decide which platform you use to reach your audience, to organize your meetings or actions? Is this part of your policy making? Do you ask these questions in your daily work? That would be, to me, it would be very interesting to understand if people see it as a consideration, and then, because I think that would be the start of activism, real activism. So that could be maybe a very interesting question to your audience.
Yes, it would be. Thank you so much for this conversation. And let's put that question to the audience. I would like to know from all of you what your considerations are when you use and choose the tools online, your digital tools. Do you already choose the public tools, or are you actually still with the commercial tools? Oh, yes, and we really want to know. So look at your screen and go to the right. There's 3 tabs, and the tab poll is where you want to be right now. We'd love to know from you what your answer is to Marlene's question. And while you're thinking about it and making your choice, we actually had some interesting questions from the audience. We had one from Nepal, and we had one from Soweto. It's great to hear. From Nepal, the question from Tiffany is, the internet in many countries is government controlled. So how can we act as civil society to own the internet, to be part of the internet without the government control? This is a hard question with many different answers. I certainly don't have the answer. So I would like to ask you, go to the chat and come up with what we can do, what everybody can do in those situations where you live in a country with government-controlled internet. It's a real serious, hard-to-solve problem for everybody. And there's a much more personal problem coming from Soweto, and I love that people ask us this. Nomsa Cassandra asks, I just got my internet connection and I want to do online courses. How much internet do I need? Now, you need all the internet you can get if you want video courses, but who in the audience is out there in South Africa and give Nomsa Cassandra some good advice? You know what the best and fastest and not too expensive internet is, probably. We don't. So anybody from South Africa, get in touch with Nomsa Cassandra, and she gets it to do courses. So anybody who has too much internet in South Africa, maybe Nomsa Cassandra is the one you want to talk to. So use those chats and interact with each other there. Now, while we're waiting for the poll results, just one thing. The internet may be broken in some ways, but it's still an absolute miracle, because in a few moments we're going to hear from people across the world, and after that we'll have a discussion with somebody from Ethiopia, Bangladesh and Kenya. I mean, the internet is a marvelous and miracle event in all our lives. Do we have poll results?
They're coming in. And just for you to know, because we introduced it yesterday when we started the festival, we have participants from over 50 countries, including Vitaly from Finland, including Susan from Uganda, and many more, just as a start. So
it's great, right? I mean, it makes you feel happy, seriously happy. Great, happy that you are all there.
Great to be connected. And I'm looking for the outcomes of the poll so far. The first outcome is 17 voices for no, not important.
You just take the tools you want and need, and it doesn't matter if they're public or not public.
Stick to the commercial tools, they can function well, and
Which
adapt
is,
them for good purposes.
Which
That's
is
a very
absolutely
pragmatic
true,
approach.
and I do this as well, yes.
At the same time, there's one, I recently deleted my WhatsApp account and tapped in another kind of comments.
Signal is a good one. Yeah. So there's beautiful lists of interesting browsers like Brave and communication tools that you can use if you want to make these hard choices and also to protect your privacy. Anyway, let's leave this for the moment and move to what is happening out there in the world. And there's so many interesting things happening. We're going to talk first about the food hackathon. The food hackathon was held last week, and next to me is Margreet van der Pijl, who is the innovation facilitator at Partos, who organized this. Before we talk, I think we should look at the video. But how many people participate in the food hackathon? Let's start there.
Yeah, in the day itself, it was around 30, but we took a lot of weeks up front, and there were a lot of people involved.
And name a few of the countries before we hit.
Yeah, we
play on
really
the
zoomed in Uganda, in 2 regions, to see how locally led development can work and how support can add up to this.
Okay, roll that tape. Let's see that video.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this food hackathon meeting today.
The food hackathon.
We are excited to be in this place and to attend this online conference.
Today we organize a food hackathon, an online event whereby we zoom in 2 different regions in Uganda.
I live in a pretty rural area and my neighbors are all farmers and they all have gardens, and I do have a network and I'm pretty engaged with the farmers in my village, and usually those at the bottom get neglected, and I want to be that person to bridge that gap.
I'm so excited and so happy that I am participating in this food hackathon to share knowledge and ensure that the people that are participating are informed about what is happening in my community and what we are really meant to do to ensure we achieve food security.
This platform is supposed to be inclusive, but it only translates to people that can read. But the smallholder farmers are suggesting that we can make this simple by maybe adopting the use of icons that communicate what farmers are engaged in.
Worldwide, there is a lot of support already available for smallholder farmers. However, research found that over 50% of this support available is not reaching the target group.
Now, we are very interested in participating in this hackathon for a number of reasons, but most importantly, the major aim of this hackathon is to remove bottlenecks that could be affecting food security in the area, which is in line with our aspirations of ending hunger.
With regard to the system change approach, I think these food hackathons and other kinds of pilots are very valuable, because we have to find other ways to improve how we work together and find each other and talk and especially listen to each other.
We did an investigation now in COVID times, and it's less than 5% of the farmers of the project that have access to internet.
Then also, we said create a system whereby through SMS, the farmer is able to get updates direct to the farmer's phone without being connected to the internet.
We just got a small interruption, power going off, but this is something we are sorting in less than 2 minutes.
Today, we will work together with digital experts to see if smallholder farmers can be better connected to the support available.
Today, I want to learn what the problems and challenges are of both the NGOs and the smallholder farmers. Because whatever we create in a later stage, it needs to be valuable and used.
You know, the digital experts are playing a great role in creating access to information by farmers. So it is a great opportunity that these experts are hearing the challenges to achieve food security.
To me, that is just interesting because that is the direction we should be taking. We should be working with farmer groups. So I am absolutely confident that we are going to achieve great outcomes and success, and this is going to be impactful.
Thank you, Francis, and my other colleagues for the input. I would suggest we become the champions of this initiative.
So the food hackathon has been a real success today, and we're really happy with the results so far.
It was interesting to see how both parties, NGOs and smallholder farmers, shared their thoughts and ideas and how they came up with a possible solution.
I am super hopeful that this is going to be great, especially knowing that we are focusing on smallholder farmers, basically using the bottom-up approach.
I have a feeling that this is a stepping stone to achieving food security in the future.
And hopefully, and together, we will be able to continue contributing to the socio-economic livelihood of the young people.
This is how excited I am for the food hackathon. It has been a great day. I had so much fun. We discussed so many wonderful things. So I'm super happy and excited. I'm like, oh, finally we have something which is going on regarding food production in this country. So, yay!
What a fantastic video, but also what a fantastic project. I'm standing next here to the person who organized this. So what did we learn from the Uganda farmers?
Yeah, I first want to say that I did not organize this alone.
Of course not.
The fantastic filmmaker Sanne, he has worked intensively to create this video. And also Edwin Stoop, the visual artist.
Oh, that's about the video. And then there's the whole team that organized the food hackathon. Yeah, exactly. I mean, so, but what about the food hackathon? This was organized to especially to learn from local expertise, local needs, local awareness of, you know, where problems are and bottlenecks are. What did we learn?
Yeah, we learned basically that it is really important to start with the farmer groups. It was interesting because one of the NGOs that was also involved said we choose the farmer groups that can be part of our support program, while the farmer groups really shouted give us the lead. We can help each other, we can provide information to each other, and we can search ourselves for the support if we know where it is.
And so this is done, the food hackathon was done. What are the results?
Yeah, I hope this is only the beginning of something. I think we planted a seed, and now we need to see what steps will be taken, but that's in the hands of the farmer groups.
They know what to do with seeds and growing them, and I hope there will be a long project that will continue, and that, you know, such an important part of our food chain is part of the food chain, really part of it.
Yeah, it's also good to mention that a lot of Partos member organizations offer very good support to smallholder farmers, and we hope, of course, that through this initiative they can find each other in a better way.
No, thank you. And Uganda, are you out there? I mean, is Uganda watching this? I hope so. So maybe share your thoughts in the chat. So just tap a sentence. Even if it's just like, this was just the beginning, we need more, or this was already super interesting, or anything. Uganda, are you there? We're waiting for your chats. We love hearing from you. In the meantime, though, we're going to all of the South, because we're going to the most important part of the whole Partos Innovation Festival, if you ask me, which is the most inspiring digital innovations. The most inspiring digital innovations from the South, where they were thought up, where they were built, where they were used, where experiences were gathered. And there was a big, well, not a contest, but it was a big call out. We asked, and 63 organizations said, okay, we have something super interesting. I hope all of you are here. And then there was a jury of experts, also 9 people from Nigeria, Bangladesh, Ethiopia, all over the world as well, selecting them. And 30 are now waiting, sitting ready behind the computers to tell you about their most inspiring digital innovation. So we are going to move into this part of the program, but first let's see a video so that you can completely understand what happened.
FarmPlan is an online platform that connects smallholder farmers with farm sponsors.
Allo Technologies is a software for monitoring the end use of micro business loans.
This device can assist a blind people to walk based on the signals from the sensors.
We are Kajensi, and we're bringing Manufacturing 4.0 to 3 billion people around the world.
This year, Partos, the branch organization for Dutch development organizations, is organizing a contest for the most inspiring digital innovations, selected by an expert group of 9 people coming from Bangladesh, Nigeria, Kenya, and other countries. And by participating in the MIDI contest, these organizations can become connected to potential cooperation partners like investors or other NGOs.
I'm really delighted to be here in the whole MIDI program. We were looking for opportunities to scale and replicate our innovation and thought the MIDI platform would be a great place for that.
The benefit I hope that the most inspiring digital innovations will offer me is to also hear what other people had to say and how we could collaborate and partner to change the world and add positive value.
Welcome to this meeting. We are very excited to have so many people from all different corners of the world in the same virtual room. Today we organize a co-creation in which different organizations will work on each other's burning questions. Because they are often in the same situation, they can easily help each other and find workable solutions.
We were very inspired to find out that all the challenges we come across here in Uganda, they are all the same challenges which other startups around the world face through.
I actually had a team of people who were able to provide me with the solutions to some of the problems that I may have overlooked while trying to upskill my startup.
Well, this co-creation so far has been super for our project. We were matched with 2 other programs, and one of them we potentially could collaborate beyond today. So we're just so happy.
That is something which we heard from different organizations, that they will stay in touch. So the co-creation has been a real success today, and we are really happy with this result. I wish you all the luck and hope to stay connected. Bye-bye.
Now, all these people, all 30, are now sitting there waiting for us all to come visit the digital innovation. Just one more question to you. They were part of this program. They got, got connected to a lot of people. What was the other award they got? What was it that Partos gave them?
So they got a personal pitch video, which can be seen on the YouTube channel, what will be shown in the chat. And they got part of this co-creation where they worked on each other's bottlenecks. And of course today.
And of course they can tell everybody that they're one of the most inspiring digital innovations. Tell your mom, tell your dad, tell everybody in your neighborhood. Okay, so what are we going to do, ladies and gentlemen? Everybody out there, we're going to visit 30 digital innovations. Of course, it's very hard to visit 30 innovations, so we made 5 rounds, and in each round you can pick where you want to go. And there you will meet the actual makers themselves. They're live, they're sitting there ready for you all over the world. They will tell you what they've done, and you can either learn from them, you can help them with something, you can connect them to somebody that has a similar idea or that makes something out of that. So everybody, it's time to go to the digital innovations.